Hi everybody, I'm Professor Quesada, and I just wanted to say a few words about philosophy, what it is and what are its main branches. One of the things I love most about philosophy is how unique it is. It's just not like any other discipline. Philosophy in Greek means the love of wisdom, and part of what makes philosophy so unique is not only the kinds of questions we ask, but the way that we ask them and also the way that we answer them. It's based on reason or logic, which is one of philosophy's branches. But first, let's just back up one step, the questions we ask. A lot of people say that the questions we ask have no answers. That's not really true. It would be more accurate to say that the questions have been answered, but as those questions get answered, they become part of a new discipline. They actually start the foundation of a new discipline. For example, a lot of questions that philosophers used to ask had to do with the world and with nature. Well, guess what? Those questions now make up the domain of physics. Philosophy is over 2,000 years old. So all of the questions that we've been asking during those 2,000 plus years, closer to 3,000 actually when you go back to the pre-Socratics, those questions have been answered, but as they've been answered, once again, they have started new domains. So we now have domains that we didn't have back then. We have psychology. That's a pretty new discipline. We have physics, we have geography. A lot of those questions used to be part of what we called natural philosophy. So, to sum up the point, we do answer the questions, but as we answer the questions, they become part of new domains. The second thing that makes philosophy quite unique is that the things that we ask are really complex. Case in point, free will. This is a very, very difficult question to answer. Do we have free will? And yet these questions matter a lot. Some people say, oh, philosophy is just, all about talking about things that don't matter. Well, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Consider this, the whole business of law and jurisprudence are based on the assumption of free will. Because consider this, if we didn't freely do the thing we did, how can we be held responsible for our actions? So you see, a lot rides on the assumption of free will, but it's the philosophers that are asking the question, do we really have it? In other words, are we truly autonomous beings who make our own decisions? Well, you might be asking, what are the alternatives? If we don't make our decisions, who's making our decisions for us? Well, maybe everything was just laid out as part of a kind of destiny. Do you believe in destiny? Well, can you consistently believe in destiny and free will at the same time? Those are the kinds of questions we'll be exploring this semester, and that brings me to the branches of philosophy. Free will, in fact, is part of the first branch of philosophy that I would like to highlight, and that is called metaphysics. Metaphysics is the study of reality, and by reality, I mean everything that's part of our world, our everyday world, and that includes you. What are you? Are you this eternal soul that will live on past your death, or are we just going to turn into dust? We talked about destiny just a minute ago. Is destiny part of reality, or is that just a fiction of the imagination? Do we make our own choices? Are we free, autonomous beings in this world who are making our own choices? Do we have a soul? Is there a God who's making all the decisions for us? These are part of the questions that we ask in the branch of philosophy called metaphysics. And the other side of that is epistemology. Epistemology is a Greek word coming from epistem, meaning knowledge. What do you really mean when you say, I know? What is it that you know, and how can you know it? Is true knowledge really possible? And if so, how does it differ from a belief? What makes something knowledge and not just a belief or opinion? What justifies a belief such that you can count it as true knowledge? Those are the kinds of questions we ask in an epistemology class. Next, we have ethics. To stick with our free will example, if I really am a free being who makes my own decisions, well then what should I do? What is the quote-unquote right thing to do? Those are the kinds of questions we ask in an ethics class. Just going back to epistemology for a minute, what you believe matters a lot because what you believe will determine your actions. But to take it one step further so that you can see how these branches are related, in ethics we would say, okay, well if you believe that the world is coming to an end, then you're going to hoard your emergency supplies. Then ethics, the next branch of philosophy, would ask, well, if that's the case, well then should you share your supplies or should you keep them all for yourself? Why? Why not? You see how those two branches kind of play with each other a little bit. What you believe and what you know to be true will influence what you do. Ethics takes it a step further. Well then, what is the right thing to do? And then we have aesthetics, one of my favorite branches of philosophy, and that deals with art and beauty. What makes something beautiful? If ethics asks what makes something right, well, aesthetics asks what makes something beautiful and who gets to decide. For example, what separates a piece of trash on the street from a piece of art? What if I put a frame around it and I hang it on the museum wall? Now, does that piece of trash get to be art? Why? Why not? Who gets to decide? What is the thing that makes something beautiful? What is the experience of beauty? What is happening to me when I stand in the museum or in nature and I say, oh, wow, that is sublime. What does that mean? That's aesthetics. Finally, we have logic. Logic concerns the rules of reason. What makes something justified? When I say that something is true, how do I support that conclusion? What makes it a sound argument such that I can say to you, I know this, and this is why it's true. Logic will examine the rules of argumentation and help you assemble a proper argument, which you can then turn into an essay for another class.